there's a lot of experiences that I feel like I had a front row seat to that I first of all didn't ask for. I don't think anybody would, but I think because they happened the way that they did, I'm not at all ever going to say that I'm grateful for any of the losses that have happened, because there's a lot of them that still to this day just really don't sit well with me. And the first loss that I had to suicide was a student of mine, and as a soldier, when you go through, when you finally make rank, it's like, oh hey, I'm here, like I got promoted, I made it, and everyone's like, yeah, great, all right, see ya. Like, it's like, well, what the fuck do I do? How do I become a leader? Like, what do I, how like, they don't teach you that. It's very hands-on. It's very, you got to like experience that stuff, And so there's a lot of stuff that I learned that I wish I had done better because, while I was an instructor, I had this soldier that, he was, he was just a good guy. I knew him from working in the motor pool and stuff, and his coveralls were always dirty. He was always getting down and dirty with the trucks and stuff, and he couldn't miss him. He was built like a linebacker, and he was just a big, quiet, nice dude. But like he's like a big country guy. And I'd go through all this teaching and all this stuff, training at the ITC and whatever, and I would tell every single class, and I meant it. I know that I meant it. I'd say, hey, like the last slide for my slideshow was always my number. It's like, hey, here's my number. If you have any questions about anything, like, let me know. Like, hit me up anytime. And that's how I left it. His arms room was across from mine, and I'd see him in passing, for the couple months after that. And he took his life in that arms room.
Wow.
And there's some other details that really suck. I mean, there's no easy way to talk about that stuff, but to know that kid and know where his heart was and know what kind of a soldier he was, and then to see him like that, really made me wish I was a better leader. Really made me wish I had driven that idea home. Hey, call me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to teach that week that he died. And at the end of that class, I got to the last slide or whatever, and all the other instructors and stuff were there. And I looked at the other instructors and I said, hey guys, I need a minute. All y'all get the fuck out. They all got out, and I shut the door, and I took my rank off, and I threw it on the table. And I said, hey, this is my number. It's going to stay up here for 10 minutes. We're going to take these next 20 minutes, and we're just going to bullshit. We're going to talk about anything. I said, if you are ever in a position where you don't want to be, you call me. We can talk about beer. We can talk about football. We can talk arms rooms. We can talk about how the Army sucks. We can talk about anything you want. I don't care. I was like, I have a daughter. I'll talk about Barbies. I will talk about, I will talk. I will talk. I will be there. I was like, and to this day, I mean, now I have a work number, but I've never had a different phone number in my life. I've had one phone number my entire life. And I've always said, people, if you call me, I'm going to answer, and I really drove that home to people after that, because I felt like, I knew where my heart was in saying, going through the motions, checking the box. Hey, here's my number. Let me know if you need anything. But clearly that message did not get conveyed properly to somebody who was 25 feet from me when their life ended.
Damn.
I think so. Like, obviously, there's 11 people that I've known that have died by suicide. And some of them are people that I've talked to, close friends that I've talked to weeks before or days before. And some of them are just colleagues that, I worked with or whatever, but the thing that's been alarming for me has been like, it always seems to be like a cluster, like, couple weeks, like our unit literally got shut down after 3 weeks after that soldier across from me took his life, because a week later another soldier from our unit took his life, and a week after that another one in a sister unit did. And it's like, and I know two of the three guys, and I've worked with them in, like, had conversation, you know what I mean? Like, it's I really don't like giving specifics on people, or like, but knowing these people in any capacity, and then like they're gone, and then seeing the handling of the unit of what happens after they're gone, and then just everything. Like, I was shocked. Number one, you get shocked that you lose somebody. Number two, I was shocked how the military would handle a lot of this stuff. And then number three, I'm shocked that a lot of these families get nothing. These families are left in the wake of these problems that are, look, everybody people shine up for the military, and they have their own past, their own history, their own whatever. There's several factors that can combine to make somebody do something like that. And I'm not going to say there's a one size fits all approach, because there absolutely isn't. But if you or I died on active duty, our families would have the opportunity to become a Gold Star family, depending on how we died, or, you know what I mean? Regardless. But if you were to tell me that the exact same issue could be the cause of death, but they have their DD-214 and those families get nothing, that is so wrong to me. And that is so, while I was in, I lost a good amount of people. One was a couple of them were accidents, a handful of them were suicides. 2020 was an awful year for everybody, right? It was terrible. I was in the process of trying to do everything in my house and whatever. And obviously COVID took away a lot of shit, and that was awful. I would rather live through 50 more 2020s than to ever have to live through another 2019, because in 2019, I lost 5 people. And when you see the numbers, it's just the same handling. It's the same. It's like, what's crazy for me is I always think like, I think it's kind of like one of the self-preservation thoughts, like, who's next, or like, but seriously, who's next? Because for me, like I said, I've talked to some of these people days before, how do I get through to these people to not make sure they don't make that decision? Where can I help? How can I help? How can I be not that asshole that's just, hey, how you doing? Like, oh, living the dream. Like, I'm not asking that. Like, I'm asking, how are you doing? And I made it a point. I make it a point to check up. Like, I still check up on all my soldiers now. One of my best friends in the military was from Nepal. His guy grew up in Nepal. He joined the military to get his citizenship, and he was one of the best soldiers that I ever worked with, and like, meeting all these different people from different walks of life. Like, how can all of these things, how can they all have the same common denominator? And so that's, 2019, it started off, starting out with a new year. It was my first new year out of the military. And I had like December, like I felt like it was the first Christmas that I was able to like be around my family and like feel normal again, and it was about 3 weeks after New Year's, my team leader took his life.
Oh shit.
And, we had kind of fallen off, we kind of broke contact or whatever. I never really knew why, but he kind of just went dark, whatever, like pushed me out of his life. It's, I don't really have answers for that. But it was shocking. It was really shocking to me. And it's this awful feeling, and then 3 weeks after that, another friend of mine took his life from the same unit.
Wow.
And so 3 weeks apart, like I'm on the outside, like I'm free and clear now. And these guys supposedly were too, but they're not free and clear like I am. They're still carrying, trying to figure out like how
Yeah.
how can this be happening this many times in my life, and I'm just one guy. I know tons of people. I've asked other people like, hey, how many people have you lost to suicide? Like, oh, I lost count.
Wow.
And it's like that's not okay to say, dude. Like, that's not like, this is a normal thing that gets normalized, and we don't talk about it. And we don't address it.
Becoming like numb to it in a sense, like, oh,
super desensitized. And so, I felt like that year. So January and then February, there was another loss. And then in May, there was a loss from another suicide from a unit that I was in for like 2 weeks. I knew this guy, but I was in the unit for 2 weeks. So how well did I really know him, and then one of my other sergeants from my old unit got hit and killed on his motorcycle right after he got back from deployment. And that was in June. And so that whole first 6 months of 2019 for me, it felt like I was just like drowning in grief. Like I was so, there was times I was using alcohol as a weapon against myself, just to whatever. And it just like, I felt so much like we need to do something. And looking around and like, there's all these people that have these ideas that are doing something, but we're not making the traction we need to make. We're not gaining the ground we need to make. We are still snowballing and rapidly fast. And when you get into the numbers of this stuff, it's brutal and it's awful. And then I took a trip that year. Me and my wife, we never had a honeymoon. So we took a 10-day honeymoon, and it was great, like getting to let your hair down, no kids, no responsibilities, like actually enjoy life, like outside of the military. Like I felt like so much of my young adult life was just military, and while we're on that trip, my soldier hit me up. I saw his message and whatever, and we were out at the club or whatever. And so I was like, oh, I'll get back to him. And I totally forgot that he had messaged me, and I realized after we got back from the trip that I never responded to his message. And I was like, hey, sorry, dude. Like I was on this trip. Like I was out and about, like, hope you're doing good. Good to hear from you, whatever. He never responded.
Oh, damn.
And so it felt like for me that the second that I let my hair down and was able to get over all this stuff, that was the last gut punch. And I just had this start, like, I need to do something. I need to do something about this. I can't sit on my hands. I've never been the type of person to sit on the sideline and not get in the game, and so I reached out to somebody I knew. I started asking questions, and I was like, hey man, like, it's crazy to me that this phenomenon happens. And there's all these people that talk about the 22, but nobody really talks about it. Mm-hmm. I was like, why are we not investigating this? Why are we not investigating what these issues are, And so that year, coupled with all these conversations, is really what built Minus 22. And I was like, we need to take an investigative approach to this, but a real one. I have my own biases, about military service and where I think the problems are, but explaining this to civilians, there's so many civilians still to this day, they have no idea about the 22. None.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They don't know. For you and me, it's like, oh yeah, like we know about, because it affects us, but there's people that have no idea. And, there's all these people like, oh, we support our troops and all that, but they have no idea what it means. And that these numbers are people. These numbers are people that were a part of my life, that are a part of other lives, that have families. Of the 11 people that I know that we've lost to suicide, only 4 of them did not have kids. And so we're raising generations in this, expecting this to be normal. And this is not normal. There's nothing about this that is normal. This is the furthest thing from normal.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we going to do to start addressing these problems? Well, we have to start asking the questions. And throughout my career, I was the guy that asked questions. And I was that asshole. I was the squeaky wheel, and people hated me, and I get it. And that's fine. But I asked questions. And now transferring that into my civilian life, I'm asking questions now. And I'm teaming with other civilians that are filmmakers to ask these questions. And we've gone to Fort Bragg. We've sat down with the top VA doctors. We've investigated. We've talked to these survivors, finding survivors that are willing to talk to us, first of all, like letting us peer into your life in this awful, horrific instance of your life. Like, I've been so blown away by how many people want to help with this mission, that want to teach this, because what they've experienced, they don't want anyone else to ever have to experience. And in learning some of these things that we've dived into now, it's like, okay, so what can we do to make a difference? What can we do to make a change? I got really pissed off with the 22 push-up a day challenge.
That was trend. That was a while ago, like recently too. I think that was like trending everywhere. Yeah, I saw a few of those videos popping up, and I was just like, it's kind of cringe.
I hate it.
It's cringe worthy.
I hate it. I say this a lot too. Like, I think there's, like, if you help veterans, if you want to help veterans, you want to help military people, I commend you. Like, you have my respect. But I'm a firm believer that awareness without action is useless. What the fuck are we doing with 22 push-ups? Are we raising money?
No.
Are we helping people? Are we going anywhere? Are we starting a cause? We're just talking about it so that these faces can be even more forgotten than they seemingly already are. I hate that. I legitimately hate it.
Oh yeah, and then so they get done with the push-ups, and they're smiling, they're like thumbs up, and it's like, well, that's, I don't know what you're smiling about.
Well, I think some of that desensitization stuff happens too, and I think there's a part of grief where we gotta. I mean, look, man, if I couldn't laugh about certain stuff, I wouldn't be able to get through any of this stuff. And I'm not saying I find humor in any of these losses or anything like that at all. Mm-hmm. But there have been times. So like I had a soldier. It's gonna be kind of drawn out. We lost him last year. He was from Massachusetts. When he got to my unit, I wasn't responsible for him, but I went out of my way to be responsible for him, make sure he was good to go, because he was from Mass. And when he got out and he came back home, I told him, I was like, hey, if you need anything, if you need a good VSO, if you need anything, like, hit me up, let me know, whatever. At this point, he had known about what I was doing with this stuff. And he's like, oh, this is awesome. Like he was saying, like, he's like, oh, like, you're filming this stuff. Like, he's like, well, if you're ever hiring, I could be your driver, like I could, I'd drive you around to your sets and these interviews and whatever. And, we always kind of joked and laughed about that, and when I got the news, first of all, my family now, they're I'm a very honest person. I open those channels to be, I want accountability, right? I don't ever want to be the angry old drinking veteran that just dismisses everybody and just, is an asshole for no reason. I want people to be able to check me, and I want to be able to talk about the stuff that bothers me. So, when I found out about his death, I lost, like, I was crouched down, like, in the corner of my house, like, sobbing my eyes, like, I couldn't even, like, and my wife, she's talking to me and asking, and she tells kids, okay, like, you need space, whatever. And I tell them after, like, hey, like, daddy lost another friend. It's really tough. It's tough for me, whatever. It was a really rough 2 weeks. And it was couple weeks after his death and whatever, and it was just really, I was trying to get confirmation on his death. Nobody could give it to me. I was going around to the state police barracks over here trying to find any information about what happened, whatever, and I eventually found it. But it was just it was awful. And I felt like when everything subsided, when all that stuff, when I had finally like, okay, like this is reality, you know, this is what it is. I was driving in my car. I got to the same red light I was at when I got the news. And I was sitting there and I just started busting out laughing. And I felt like an asshole. But I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to need a new driver. You know, like that was the, you know, like, because that was always the comments he was kind of making, you know, and always the jokes. And so it's like that loss sucked, you know, that was awful. Trying to find some kind of humor in it. Like I can get the, you know, the weird, awkward, crazy loss, grief, struggle, transition. But yeah, like if you're doing 22 push-ups a day and then smiling about it, I don't think that the cause matches the action. You know, I don't think there really is any action there.